You will need 2mm cording of any brand, a 3.15-inch ball, a 4mm crochet hook, scissors, a stitch marker, and a crochet needle. I will begin by making a magic circle, and if you've never done a magic circle before, I will leave a link in the description box for a video that is just on that, so you can practice that before you start this project. And inside the magic circle, I'm going to do 7 half double crochets. Also, we will not be joining rounds for any of this project. We will be working in a continuous round. When you get your 7 half double crochets, pull your tail to close your circle. And then in the first stitch of that round, we're going to do an increase stitch. So put 2 half double crochets in that first stitch. And I'm going to work my tail in. Put your stitch marker in at this point. It's really important when working in continuous rounds to use a stitch marker so you don't lose track of where your stitches stop and start. Going to do another half double crochet, and that's my first increase. And then I will put increase stitches in the remaining stitches in this round. When you get to the end of round 2, you will have 14 stitches. Continuing on with the next round. So for round 3, do 1 half double crochet and replace your stitch marker. And then do an increase stitch in the next stitch. And then you will repeat that pattern of half double crochet and increase for the remaining part of the round. When you get to the end of that row, you will have 21 stitches. And now for the next row, we're going to continue to do increases. We're going to do 1 half double crochet. Replace your stitch marker. And then do another half double crochet. And then do an increase stitch. And you will continue that pattern of a half double crochet in 2 and then an increase stitch in 1. And when you get to the end of that row, you will have 28 stitches. We're going to continue to do one more round of increase stitches. So we're going to put a half double crochet in 3 stitches and then an increase. So this is the first, put 1 more there, and then another half double crochet in the 3rd stitch, and then an increase stitch. And then you will continue that pattern of half double crochet in 3 and an increase stitch in 1 for the remaining part of the round. At the end of that row, you will have 35 stitches. And we're done doing our increases. So now we're going to do a single crochet in every stitch. So just keep doing single crochets, 1 single crochet in every stitch. And now we are going to begin our pattern, and this is a 3-stitch pattern. So the first stitch is going to be a single crochet. Put your stitch marker back in. And then the next stitch is going to be a single crochet. And now we're going to back up to the first stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, go to the 3rd stitch, and then the row below the 3rd stitch. So we're jumping down to the next row, and then that's when you will complete your stitch. And you just repeat that pattern. So 1 single crochet, and then another single crochet, and then back up to the first stitch, insert your hook into the first stitch, yarn over, pull through, go over to that 3rd stitch, but then go down to the next row below, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, yarn over and pull through all 3 stitches, or all 3 loops. And you continue to repeat that till you get to your stitch marker. Once you get to the end of the round, you should have 2 stitches left after you do a crossover stitch. And so put a single crochet and then your 2nd single crochet. And to do your crossover, you need to take your stitch marker off, insert your hook, and then we're going to go over to that first crossover and connect. So the first stitch in the row, by jumping down to the next row like we did on all the other ones, it will put you into where your first crossover was. And so that is how you connect all of those crossover stitches to give you that chevron look. So now that you've completed a crossover, you just go right back into doing your single crochet, crossover. And you just continue that going around to your stitch marker. So you will be able to see that each round does not end with the same stitch. The first round ended with the second crochet in the 3-stitch pattern. This round is going to end with 1 single crochet. So then when you take your stitch marker off, then the first stitch that you do in that row will just be your second single crochet, because you don't end the pattern just because the row ends. You just continue going around with that same pattern. So you will continue doing this pattern in rounds until you have completed 6 rounds. Once you have 6 rounds completed, we now need to start doing our decrease stitches. At this point, I like to put my hand inside and kind of stretch it out. This cording stretches out very easily, and you want to get it a little bit stretched out so you can put your ball in there. And you still may have to grab the edges of it and kind of slide it up and pull it over there. Make sure the point at the bottom where your magic circle started is nice and snug, so that it's a round, snug fit and not a point. You can also put some fairy lights inside the ball if you want to do that. So now we're going to start decreasing the same way that we increased. We're going to now do the decrease. And to do this, take the stitch marker off. And we're going to put a half double crochet in 3 stitches. And then we're going to put a decrease stitch, combining the next 2 stitches to make a decrease. So if you haven't done a decrease before, you yarn over, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through, and then immediately go back into the next stitch, insert your hook, yarn over, pull through. You have 4 loops on your hook, yarn over and go through all 4 loops. And that is a half double crochet decrease. And we're going to repeat that pattern of doing half double crochet in 3 and a decrease. Just keep repeating that till you get to your stitch marker. And when you get to the end of this round, you should have 28 stitches. and the decrease should be the last stitch in that round. Now we're going to do another row of decreases, just like we did in the beginning. So remove your stitch marker, and this time we're going to do a half double crochet in 2 and then a decrease. So this is the second half double crochet, and now a decrease. And when you get to the end of that row, you should have 21 stitches. And then we're going to do another round of decreasing, and this time is going to be 1 half double crochet and a decrease. And then you repeat the pattern of 1 half double crochet and 1 decrease until you get to your stitch marker. And when you get to the end of that row, you should have 14 stitches. And this is the number of stitches that we're going to end with. So we will not be ending with the 7. If you do another row of decreases, then it makes it too tight at the top. I suppose you could do some decrease slip stitches if you wanted to, but I chose not to do that. So at this point, I'm going to put that top piece back in and make sure all the little metal pieces on the side are tucked in tight. And then I'm going to cut my yarn. And then I'm going to make just a little bit of a knot to get that cord tight so it doesn't come unraveled. And then I'm going to weave in the edges tightly around the top with a crochet needle. So I'm just going to weave in and sort of cinch it with this crochet needle through every stitch on the top. I'm going to pull it nice and tight so that top circle gets sort of pulled tightly around that middle. Once you get to the end of that row, you need to find a tight stitch that you can end your weaving in. So just find a tight stitch so that it doesn't come unraveled. And then you can cut it. And then you're done. You can also use a piece of the cording when you cut your yarn off, or when you cut off your tail. You can use that instead of a hook if you want. I usually use a metal hook, but if you want them to match, then you can just use a piece of the cording. This is another one that I did with the same brand of cording, except it was just the red sparkle instead of the regular red. They also have it in white sparkle, I think, as well.